We've been talking about the new era for the Washington Commanders for a while now. And that new era taking another big step today. The team introducing new head coach Dan Quinn in Ashburn. We'll be hitting the big news from all angles, and we'll go one-on-one with the new head man in Washington. And Quinn is not the only newly hired Commanders coach. We'll go deeper and look at the new offensive and defensive coordinators and the impact they could have on the team. Plus, we will take you live to Las Vegas just under a week before Super Bowl 58. Our sports director, Forrest, is on the ground in Sin City. We've got that and more coming up right now on Game Night.
The only 7-day-a-week sports show in the DMV. From DC News Now, this is Game Night.
But there is nothing I enjoy more than doing hard with good people. And these guys here, they're some really good people.
Oh, man. Dan Quinn, does that not make you want to run through a wall? Welcome into Game Night. I am Alex Flum. It is a big day for Washington Commanders fans and a big day for new head coach Dan Quinn. And he is hoping to bring that message and instill it upon his players. He says there is talent on this roster, and he believes he can build a winner. Of course, he's been to the Super Bowl before as a head coach. He's won as a coordinator. He also says that he takes over here, and this won't be a rebuild.
We're going to compete our asses off together. And so knowing that, I hope they feel the energy that's and momentum that's going to come from this day forward. And knowing that years ago, I can remember Matt Ryan, after my first year together, he said, I felt like I got traded, but I went back to the same building. And I thought to myself, good job, because that's what I was wanting them to feel. They needed a recalibration, and our club does too. And so that's what I anticipate doing.
And a big thing Quinn discussed at his press conference, cohesiveness. He plans to work very closely with General Manager Adam Peters and have that trickle down to his staff and team and all the way up to Josh Harris in the ownership box. Harris and Peters both say they're excited to work with Quinn.
He and I have a shared vision that we're going to build a team that with the play style and the identity that you guys will all love to watch. The fans of the Commanders, not only just here in the DMV, but all over the world, will love watching Dan's team play. Dan and I are going to be in lockstep in everything we do. We already are, and we will continue to be.
These two gentlemen are sitting next to me because they know what they're doing, and Adam's going to run the front office and the football ops, and Dan's going to run the coaching staff and the on-field operation.
All right, and in just a moment, our Brandy Flores will go one-on-one with head coach Dan Quinn. But first, we want to bring in our buddy, Lynnell Willingham, 106.7 The Fan, Team 980. Good to have you here. I feel like such a big day, we couldn't not have you here, right, Lynnell?
Of course, man. I'm happy to be a part of it. Monumental day here in Washington.
And before we get more into Dan Quinn, we have a lot to talk about, first of which is Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas on Sunday. And we know somebody over there. Our sports director, Forrest, is in Sin City leading up to the Super Bowl. Derek, we want to talk to you about Dan Quinn, but first off, how exciting is it being out there? What's the vibe like? And we're just under a week away from this big game.
I mean, so far it's crazy like Las Vegas would be, right? A lot of craziness, especially with Super Bowl opening night taking place. Blue Man Group's out there, Carrot Top's out there, actually asked who we thought was going to win. Carrot Top, being a redhead, said he thought the team wearing red would win. Both teams were red. But there was a lot of things going on. Jeremiah Fennell, the 11-year-old kid, doing interviews out there. So those were some cool moments with the athletes as well. But that's what we're going to expect here in Vegas. They're going to try to put on a show unlike any other city could.
Derek, Lynnell here. You're at the epicenter of the NFL world right now. Lots of big names out there in Vegas for Super Bowl week. What's the word on the street? What are you hearing about Dan Quinn to Washington?
Well, right now, everybody seems to like the hire. Everybody that I talked to, I mean, the key thing for him today was getting another chance. And if he takes that tone, right, you have a lot of players who play with a chip on their shoulder. It seems like Dan Quinn's going to coach with a chip on his shoulder, if you will. And maybe that will spark something new for this franchise. But all the pieces have to fit. I'm going to be a broken record. I'll say that every time. You got the head coach. You got the offensive coordinator. You got the defensive coordinator now. Now you got to go out and get the quarterback. And now you got to go out and get the offensive line. But everybody loves Dan Quinn from what I hear. They think he's a great guy, and they think this could be the right opportunity and the right job for him, guys.
Derek, I'm going to say something I feel like you would say to me if I was out there. Have fun out there, but not too much fun. All right.
I will try not to.
Thought you'd like that. Thank you, Derek. And after his press conference, Dan Quinn joined our Brandy Flores going one-on-one in the Commanders practice bubble. Here's their conversation.
I am with the new man at the helm of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn, head coach of the Washington Commanders. How does that sound to you?
It sounds awesome. I honestly could not be more fired up to be here and to kick it off with everybody today. I know, being named, that's over the phone, but when you're here and your feet are on the ground and you're feeling, the energy that goes with it, today's a cool day, and it's definitely a moment. I'm so pumped to be a part of it.
And Dan, life is all about second chances. This is your second stint as a head coach in this league in Atlanta. You made it to the Super Bowl, although you didn't win, and that is the ultimate prize for any coach and player in this league. What did you learn most from your time in Atlanta, and how do you hope to propel your time here forward?
Yeah, I think in life and in coaching especially, there's all these lessons, and you have to take the lessons and learn from it. Some are coming from success, some come through adversity, but once you get them, you want to grab them, and man, you want to run like hell and go prove it. And so those lessons through my time in Atlanta, I had an absolute blast. And being around the players and the community there, and like the energy that you can create together as a group, it's awesome. And so getting to now use those lessons and apply them here, that's why I'm so pumped, because you get to prove it. And probably the best, for me, the best competitive moments in my life are when you have to go prove it. And that's why I like being here at this time. It's awesome.
You spent the past 3 seasons as a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, and last season teams were calling you, asking you to be a head coach in this league, and you chose to stay in Dallas.
Yep.
Now this year you decide to come to Washington and be the head coach of the Commanders. Why this year? Why Washington?
It was always been about finding the right alignment, and I knew what I was looking for. As a first-time head coach, you don't know, so you're like, yeah, that's good, I'll take it, we roll. Now after some more experience, and I've done that for 6 years, to say, if that chance comes, I know I need to have these markers for us to go, because the only way I wanted to do it is if you could go really let it rip and have some fun doing that. So ownership, general manager, and a fan base that was absolutely passionate to get it rocking. So literally Washington checked every single one of those. That's why, for me, the right place at the right time in the right part of your life, this was one I was not going to miss. Was not going to miss this moment.
And a full circle moment for you. You played at Salisbury. Would you ever imagine that that kid on that team would be the head coach just 2 hours away? No. At that time, like I said, I had an absolute blast at Salisbury, and I played football and competed in track. But no, at that time, I was an elementary ed major, and was thinking I'd go back and teach and coach high school and do that. But years back, you look back and say, all along your past, all these important people that left these, mentoring along the way, and people at Salisbury, a number of them I still keep up with today. And so to look back and know they poured into me, this is, now I get to pay it forward and do it to the next group of guys coming up and the next group. And so that's the coaching brotherhood, and that's the bond that this game creates. And so they did it to me, and now I'm able to go pour it back into the next crew that's coming, and it's an absolute blast. All right, Coach, let's get it rocking. You got that right. It's no time to be wasting, so it's on.
All right, so maybe not the flashiest guy ever, but I have to say I was impressed with what Dan Quinn had to say today. What was your first impression of the new head coach?
It's hard not to be impressed, Alex, when you watched him sit up there with Adam Peters and Josh Harris. I think Dan Quinn represents stability for this organization, someone that's going to be able to come in and set a tone and set a culture and establish what it means to be a Washington Commander. I know it wasn't the sexy pick amongst media members, but the one thing I'll say about DQ, to a man, everybody that you talk to across the National Football League has nothing but positive things to say about him. I'm excited, though, Alex, for what he can do to elevate the talent already on Washington's roster. Last year when he was in Dallas, that defense was humming. They've been top 5 in the NFL since he's gotten there. Since he took over back in 2021, they've been #1 in takeaways. So what he could do with guys like Jamin Davis and Cam Curl and Benjamin St. Juste, I think the sky's the limit for this group under Dan Quinn.
And you know what? Everybody talks about 28-3, right?
Oh, who cares?
Okay, no, listen, you blew that lead, right? I think about it as a positive, because when you get to the pinnacle of the sport and it falls out of your hands right in front of your face, you have to learn from that experience. And he talked about it in his presser today. He said, I want to learn from this. He said that he knew if he got another chance, he was going to grab it and he was going to take it. So I like that mentality from him, and I'm excited to see how he implements that, because this is a franchise that kind of needs to have that mentality with the way everything's going. So we got a lot more coming up on Dan Quinn and coming up on game night. And part of this big day for the Commanders has been the hiring of their new offensive and defensive coordinators. We'll introduce you to Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Witt Jr. That's coming up right after the break. New head coach Dan Quinn hasn't been the head coach of the Commanders for more than a week, and he already has his coordinators. Our Jake Rohm has more on that from Ashburn.
We are slowly checking off the boxes for this new look Washington Commanders franchise. It started with the owner, the GM Adam Peters, the head coach Dan Quinn, and now it will be the coordinators offensively and defensively. Cliff Kingsbury will be at the helm as OC here for the Commanders next season. And on the defensive coordinator side, it will be Joe Witt Jr., who spent time with Dan Quinn the past couple of seasons in Dallas. Quinn, in his introductory press conference, talking about both Kingsbury and Joe Witt Jr.
Cliff has always been somebody that I've kept up with. Years ago, we both coached in college. In the same way of why I wanted to hire Kyle years ago, like, he was hard to go against. He would stretch the field horizontally and vertically, and going against Cliff, those same feelings you had. And then with Joe, it's a little different because I had a chance to be shoulder to shoulder with him, you know, over the last 3 years in Dallas. And through that time, I've just seen the detail, the connection, the play style, you know. And so to play good defense, you better be a good tackling team, and you better know how to take the ball away. And those are two things Joe and the units that he was charged with have been excellent at that.
As for someone not returning to Washington, last year's offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy not returning as the OC, not returning to Washington, period. Dan Quinn talking about Bieniemy in his press conference earlier today, talking about the man and the job he did coming here to Washington.
I think he's an excellent coach. We're not going to work together here, but in this coaching brotherhood, I wanted him to know, man, I really respect the work that he's done, and I was really pumped that he took his shot this year and went for it, and so I've got a lot of respect for him.
So head coach Dan Quinn has his guys at offensive and defensive coordinator. The big one, though, Cliff Kingsbury, his relationship with USC quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, and of course DMV native Caleb Williams. Kingsbury was in USC last year with the team. Could we see Caleb Williams in a Commanders uniform next season? It's going to be the talk until draft day, and I know, Alex, you and Lynnell definitely want to talk about that big topic.
Jake knows us well, doesn't he?
100%.
I can't tell you how many of my friends texted me, and we're both from Montgomery County, Lynnell and I, so we both probably get a lot of texts from other Commanders fans.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, we got Caleb, we're going to get Caleb. But what do you think? Do you think that's the move they should be making now that we have Kingsbury here in Washington? Is it Caleb Williams? Is it Drake May? Is it Jaden Daniels? They're sitting there with the second pick. What are your thoughts on how Kingsbury fits into this team's plans and their potential success going forward?
I think Kingsbury was a phenomenal hire for the team. I think it was super important to nail the offensive coordinator hire because of Washington picking number 2 overall, as we've alluded to. He's shown the ability throughout his career to be able to work with young quarterbacks across the National Football League and in college, talking about guys like Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and then the DMV's own Caleb Williams. So I know a lot of people assume that because Cliff is here, Washington will trade up to number 1. But if I'm Washington, I'm staying put, and I'm using the rest of the assets that I have to try to build this offensive line around a young quarterback. Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels out of LSU is someone that I think would fit like a glove in Cliff Kingsbury's air raid system. We'll see, though, what happens coming April.
So you're saying stay at 2 is what you would do?
You got to stay at 2. You can't trade.
Okay.
And I love me some Caleb Williams as much as the next guy does. But,
all right, I want to switch over to defense here now. Joe Witt Jr. did some real good things in Dallas under that tutelage of Dan Quinn. I believe he was in Atlanta with him also. What does he bring to this team?
he brings a bevy of experience. You mentioned he's well-traveled. He's followed Dan Quinn pretty much everywhere he's gone in his career. I'm excited for Joe Witten this opportunity because it's his first time to be the defensive coordinator, and I think that's huge. You looked at what he was able to do the past couple of years in Dallas with a secondary that doesn't have a lot of household names. I thought it was phenomenal. A guy like Deron Bland, a 6th-round pick, Alex, nominated for Defensive Player of the Year this year. Joe Witten knows how to get the most out of the talent, and I look forward to him doing it in Washington.
You remember this play, right?
I know, but look, hopefully members of Washington's secondary can get better at taking away the football. Dallas, since Dan Quinn took over the defense, #1 in the National Football League in takeaways.
I ruined a lot of people's Thanksgiving. So
well, for sure.
The nail in the coffin there. But
tough.
Now maybe they'll be making those plays here. Could help out some of the Commanders' secondary players. Well, coming up on the show, we're not done yet. We will head to Radio Row in Las Vegas. That's where Derek Forrest sat down with Lynnell's colleague over at 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulson, earlier today. That conversation is straight ahead. Welcome back into Game Night. We heard from our sports director, Derek Forrest, live earlier in the show. And earlier today, Derek caught up with Grant Paulson of 106.7 The Fan, who is also out in Vegas to discuss more about Dan Quinn's introductory press conference.
Here on Radio Row here in Las Vegas with Grant Paulson. You can catch him on 106.7 The Fan on Grant and Danny every Monday through Friday. Grant, we obviously heard Dan Quinn earlier speak. He gave you the 5 words that you love. Be where your feet are, right? Ronism. But then he gave you the if I get another shot. So what did you think of the press conference today and what he had to say?
Well, look, Dan Quinn got this job because he's a relationship-building, well-liked, inspiring football figure. He's going to shine in these moments. I thought it was great for the team. It went 57 minutes long. I mean, that's the longest introductory press conference in the history of the world, and I think it would have gone 90 minutes and the team wouldn't have stopped it. You know, the more he talks, the more people see him, the more they're going to like him. I think it was a good thing for the club. The proof's going to have to be in the pudding, though, right? I mean, it doesn't change what happened in Atlanta when things went sideways, sub 500 over the final 3 years. It doesn't change that the trend in the league is obviously more offensive and younger and ascending head coach than a retread defensive mind. So he's got some things he's still got to iron out, but today was a smash hit.
Yeah, you'll be here in Vegas all week on Radio Row. Just what's some of the things you're hearing around the NFL circles so far about this hire?
Well, look, people are really excited for Dan Quinn, I think. As I said, he's immensely well-liked. He's super plugged in with coaches, players all over the NFL. Nobody's ever been around this guy that doesn't root for him. So I think they know how, and you saw it today in the press conference, it was really important to him to get another shot. He really wanted this. So they're thrilled for him. You know, Washington's brass was walking around Mobile, Alabama in the Senior Bowl, high-fiving and giving hugs, and everyone was telling him, you got your guy. Dan Quinn's the man. So he's very popular. People like him. So that's been the reaction, is that Washington did a good thing.
You're going to be here all week, as we mentioned, but just the craziness of this week. You know, opening night is tonight. You're going to see a ton of crazy fans and reporters and all that stuff. But you've been to the Super Bowl a couple of times. What is this week like in preparation for the big game?
Oh, it's amazing, and it's going to be even bigger and better because it's in Vegas, right? I mean, you've already got the Sphere showing the team helmets. Everyone, comes out here. They expect everything to be a little bigger, a little better. Radio Row's already lit like it was pre-pandemic. So it's very, very cool. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great function. The fact is, the team's got to remember there's a game at the end of this thing. And whichever coach is able to establish more normalcy and keep his team preparing as if this is week 11, that team's going to win the game. But it's going to be a lot of fun for fans.
So who do you got Super Bowl Sunday?
I'm done betting against Patrick Mahomes, man. I lost so much money over the years picking against the Patriots and Tom Brady because the other team was better, or I didn't like this part of the matchup for them. I'm not going to make that same mistake with Mahomes. The Ravens should have beaten them. I could have made the case the Bills should have beaten them. I'm not picking against them anymore.
All right, he is Grant Paulson. You can catch him on Grant and Danny every Monday through Friday from 2 to 6:30 p.m. over on 106.7 The Fan. Quick news for the Caps. Center Evgeny Kuznetsov entering the NHLPA Player Assistance Program. Kuznetsov will be away from the team indefinitely while he receives care under the terms of the program. He can return to the team for practice and then games when cleared by administrators. This news comes just hours after the Caps said Kuzi was not practicing for personal reasons. All right, we're going to transition over to our gaming segment. We are going to quiz Lynnell in the spirit of new head coaches and hopefully a coach that one day coaches in the Super Bowl winning coaches.
Let's do it.
That's coming up right after this. All right, welcome back. Wasting no time. Let's get right into it. Lynnell, we're quizzing you on Super Bowl winning coaches. Let's see if you can get them all. 2023 Kansas City Chiefs.
Andy Reid. Come on.
2018 Eagles.
Andy Reid. Doug Peterson.
2016 Denver Broncos.
John Fox.
No, Gary Kubiak.
Gary Kubiak?
Yeah.
Okay.
2007 Indianapolis Colts.
Tony Dungy.
2003 Buccaneers.
John Gruden.
2001 Ravens.
Brian Billick.
99 Broncos.
Mike Shanahan.
Yep. 92 Commanders. Washington.
Joe Jackson Gibbs, baby. Come on.
89 Niners.
89 Niners. Steve Mariucci.
Bill Walsh.
Not Mooch.
86 Bears.
I don't know. I have no clue. Coach Mike Ditka.
Oh, yeah. You got it. That's all you needed to
There we
hit.
go.
1980 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Chuck Noll.
You got it. 77 Oakland Raiders. Come on, man. You ever played a video game?
John Madden. Goodness gracious.
Last one, 1971 Baltimore Colts. I didn't know this one either.
I have no clue. Youngest in charge.
Don McCafferty. Let's head over here. This will do it for Lynnell's trivia efforts tonight. Unfortunately, you don't get a win, but you did pretty well. And hopefully one day I can get a win. For our wonderful crew behind the scenes, producer Devin, Lynnell Willingham, and everybody out in the field, I'm Alex Fulham. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.